The night is dark and full of terrors.
What if Robb Stark married Daenerys Targaryen? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. Braavos, years before the War of the Five Kings. Sir Willem Darry lay dying in a bed too small for his once powerful frame, his breath coming in shallow gasps. The sickness had taken root months ago, and now it consumed him like fire through dry timber. But it wasn't his own death that troubled him. It was the fate of the two silvered-haired children sleeping in the next room. By candlelight, he read the letter one more time, his hands trembling. The words were carefully measured, but genuine. Eddard Stark, the man whose best friend had overthrown House Targaryen, had responded to his secret plea.
Sir Willem, I understand the burden you carry. The innocent should not suffer for the sins of their fathers. The children deserve protection. However, the realm is not ready for such an alliance. Robert's hatred runs deep. My family's safety must be my priority. Perhaps in time, when the wounds have healed and the children are grown, keep them safe. Keep them hidden. Eddard Stark, Lord of Winterfell.
Willem smiled sadly. It wasn't the alliance he'd hoped for, but it was something more valuable. Proof that not all men in Westeros wanted Targaryen children dead. Proof that honor still existed in the world. He pulled out parchment and wrote his final letter, his handwriting growing shakier with each word.
Lord Stark, I thank you for your understanding and your discretion. I go to my grave knowing that somewhere in Westeros there remains a man who sees children as children, not as threats. Should our paths cross in better times, know that House Targaryen remembers kindness. Sir Willem Darry.
He sealed it, addressed it, and tucked it away with the rest of their correspondence, hidden among Daenerys' belongings where she might one day find them. Then Sir Willem Darry closed his eyes and never opened them again. Years later, in a modest house in Pentos, Daenerys Targaryen packed her meager belongings with trembling hands. Tomorrow she would wed Khal Drogo, a Dothraki warlord she'd never met. Her brother Viserys had arranged it all, selling her like a broodmare to buy himself an army. She moved through Sir Willem's old trunk, the one possession they'd managed to keep from Braavos. Inside were faded tapestries bearing the three-headed dragon, a few books, and at the bottom, wrapped in oilcloth, a bundle of letters. Curiosity overcame her grief. She unwrapped them carefully and began to read. Her hands started shaking halfway through the first letter. Eddard Stark, the usurper's dog. The man who had helped Robert Baratheon destroy her family. Except these letters didn't read like they were written by a monster. She devoured them one after another, her eyes widening with each revelation. Sir Willem had reached out about a marriage alliance between her and the Stark heir, Robb. Lord Stark had responded with an understanding, with sympathy, with regret that the time wasn't right.
He wanted us to be protected.
The realization hit her like a physical blow. Everything Viserys had told her about the Starks being their enemies, about all of Westeros hating them, it was entirely untrue. At least one man had seen them as children worth protecting. She looked at the final letter, written in Sir Willem's shaking hand just before his death. Tears blurred her vision as she read his hope that perhaps someday the paths of dragons and wolves might cross in better times. She carefully tucked the letter into her own belongings. Tomorrow she would marry Drogo, but someday, somehow, she would remember this. The Starks weren't her enemies. Winter fell, weeks later. Snow fell gently outside the Lord's Solar as Eddard Stark sat across from his eldest son, Robb. The young man, barely past his 17th name day, looked so much like his mother with those tully features, but he had the Stark determination in his eyes.
Robert wants me to go south, to be his hand.
That's a great honor, Father.
It's a burden I don't want, but I can't refuse him. He's my oldest friend, and he needs me.
He poured them both wine, a rare gesture that told Robb this was a conversation between men, not father and son.
These are things you need to know, Robb. Things I should have told you sooner. It looks like Jon Arryn didn't die of natural causes. If Lady Arryn is to be believed, the Lannisters are involved somehow.
You think they murdered the Hand of the King?
I think they're capable of anything. And Bran's fall, I'm not sure that was an accident either.
These golden-haired bastards. A child. These are serious accusations, Father.
I have a bad feeling about this, son. My family doesn't fare well in the south. My father and brother went to King's Landing and never came back. I'm going because Robert needs me, but I won't lie to you. There's a chance things could go very wrong.
He pulled out a lockbox from his desk drawer, withdrew a bundle of old letters, and placed them before Robb.
If the worst happens, if I don't come back, you'll be Lord of Winterfell and Warden of the North. You'll need allies. Strong allies.
Robb picked up the letters, his brow furrowing as he read the signatures.
Sir Willem Darry, the Targaryen loyalist. Father, this is
treason to even possess them, yes. But read them, Robb. Years ago, when you were just a boy, Sir Willem reached out to me about a possible betrothal between you and Daenerys Targaryen.
the Mad King's daughter. But Robert would have
killed us. Yes, which is why I refused. But not because I believed the children were evil. I refused because the time wasn't right. Because keeping my family safe had to come first. The Targaryens aren't your enemies, Robb. Robert believes they are, but Daenerys and Viserys were children when their father fell. Children who did nothing wrong except being born to the wrong man. If things go badly in King's Landing, if the Lannisters move against us, you'll need powerful friends. And having options is a good thing.
You're asking me to commit treason?
I'm asking you to survive, Robb. To keep our family safe. To do whatever it takes to protect the North. Winter is coming, Robb. I can feel it in my bones. Dark times are ahead.
I understand, Father. But you're going to be fine. You're the most honorable man in the Seven Kingdoms. Robert trusts you. You'll survive his hand. Help him rule justly and come home to us.
I hope you're right. But if I'm not, remember what I've told you. The lone wolf dies, but the pack survives.
They embraced, neither knowing it would be the last time. King's Landing, months later, the throne room erupted in chaos. Robert Baratheon was dead, killed in a hunting accident, and Ned Stark stood before the Iron Throne with letters in his hand, demanding that Joffrey step aside.
I hold here the last will and testament of King Robert Baratheon. In it he names me Lord Protector and declares that Stannis Baratheon is his rightful heir. Joffrey has no claim.
Cersei tore up Robert's letter, her face twisted with contempt.
The king is dead. Long live King Joffrey.
Commander Slint, seize the Queen and her children.
But Janos Slint didn't move. Instead, the City Watch turned on Ned's men, cutting them down where they stood. Littlefinger appeared at Ned's side, a dagger pressed to his throat.
I did warn you not to trust me.
Ned's own guards were slaughtered, his daughters were taken, and he was thrown into the black cells beneath the Red Keep, a prisoner of the Lannisters. Everything he tried to prevent, the war, the bloodshed, the chaos, was about to come to pass. At Winterfell, Robb Stark stood in the Godswood when the Raven arrived. Master Luwin rushed in, his face grave.
My lord, your father has been arrested, charged with treason against the crown.
Robb's mind raced. His father was a prisoner. Sansa and Arya were hostages. The Lannisters had made their move.
Arrested? On what grounds?
The letter says he plotted to steal the throne from the King Joffrey. He's imprisoned in King's Landing.
Call the banners, Maester. All of them.
My lord,
perhaps we should call the banners. We march south. Let's see if the Lannisters shit gold.
Within days, riders carried word throughout the north. From White Harbor to the Dreadfort, from Bear Island to the Last Hearth, the direwolf banners were raised. Thousands of men marched south, and at their head rode Robb Stark, the young wolf, determined to rescue his father. In his saddlebags, wrapped carefully in oilcloth, were the letters his father had given him, the ones that spoke of dragons and possibilities, his father's wisdom, his father's contingency. If you need allies, remember the Targaryens. Before Robb could march his army south, he faced an obstacle, the twins. Walder Frey's castle straddled the Green Fork, and there was no way to cross without his permission. The decision was instant, confidence brewing from the young wolf. Perhaps his father's doing with their last conversation.
I shall meet with Lord Frey myself. Great John, Uncle, you're with me. Assemble our best men, just in case old Walder doesn't see reason.
Blackfish bowed, and the Great John let out a chuckle. Robb rode to the twins with his contingent at his side, Greywind padding alongside his horse. His father's words echoed in his mind. Be confident, be strong, be smart. Lord Walder Frey sat in his hall like a vulture on a perch, surrounded by his endless brood of children and grandchildren.
The king in the north comes to my hall. Or should I say the boy who thinks he's a king. I seem to recall the Starks and Tullys usually have more important people to visit. But now you need old Walder, don't you?
Lord Frey, I need to cross the twins. My father is a prisoner of the Lannisters, Every moment we delay is another moment he's in danger. I'm asking you to honor your oath to House Tully and let my army pass.
Oaths, oaths. Everyone wants me to honor oaths. But what do the Freys get? We're always the last ones invited to the feast. The ones to get the good marriages. The last one to get the good marriages. Tell me, boy, why should I risk my neck for you?
The Great John shifted forward, his hand on his weapon, but Robb raised a hand to stop him. His father had taught him that negotiations required patience.
Because you swore an oath. Because your honor demands it. And because I remember what my father taught me. A man who breaks his word is worth nothing.
Pretty words. But honor doesn't keep my castles standing. Honor doesn't make my children lords and ladies. I need something real. Something that shows the Starks actually value House Frey.
What do you want?
A marriage. I have daughters, granddaughters, great-granddaughters. You marry one of mine, and I'll let your army cross. That's my price.
Robb felt the confidence his father had instilled in him, the knowledge that he had options, that he didn't need to give away everything to secure this crossing.
I can't marry a Frey.
Can't or won't, because from where I sit, boy, you need me more than I need you.
I won't marry a Frey because my father was in discussions with another house before his arrest. Discussions about an alliance that could change everything. But I can offer you something better than my hand.
And what is that?
My brothers, my uncle Edmure, heir to Riverrun. You'll have marriage pacts with future lords of the North and the Riverlands. Your house will be tied to 2 great houses of the realm. That's worth more than one marriage, Lord Frey. That's a legacy.
Your brother Bran is a cripple. No much use there.
My brother Rickon, then. He's young, healthy, and he'll be shaped by whomever he marries. As for Edmure, he's a proven knight and the heir to one of the most powerful seats in the realm.
And what guarantees do I have that you'll honor these promises once you've crossed?
The word of House Stark. We've ruled the North for thousands of years by keeping our promises, and I'm offering you a place in the New Order, Lord Frey. Take it, or spend the rest of your life watching the realm change without you.
The silence stretched. Finally, Frey's mouth twisted into something approximating a smile.
You've got stones, boy. I'll give you that. Very well. Marriage pacts for Edmure and young Rickon. Written and sealed. And when you win this war of yours, I want it known that House Frey stood with the king in the north when others didn't.
Done. You have my word.
They sealed the agreement with clasped hands, and Robb's army crossed the Twins. As they marched south, the Great John clapped him on the shoulder.
Well played, Your Grace. Your father would be proud.
Let's hope we can rescue him before the Lannisters do something stupid.
Under cover of night, Robb Stark's forces surrounded the Lannister camp in the Whispering Wood. Scouts had reported that Jaime Lannister himself commanded this force, one of the greatest knights in the Seven Kingdom, and more importantly, a valuable hostage. Robb's plan was simple but brilliant. Use a small force to draw Jaime out while the main army surrounded them. His father had taught him that battles were won with strategy, not just courage. Greywind led the charge, the direwolf tearing into the Lannister scouts before they could raise the alarm. The northern forces crashed into the camp like an avalanche. It was a perfect ambush. The Lannisters, caught unprepared without their army, fell by the dozens. Robb fought at the front, his sword rising and falling, his tactical mind already 3 moves ahead. Through the chaos, he saw him, Jaime Lannister, the golden-haired knight fighting his way toward a horse, cutting down Northmen with practiced ease.
Come on then, boy. Let's see if Stark's whelp has any bite.
They clashed in the center of the carnage, steel ringing against steel. Jaime was experienced, skilled, one of the finest swordsmen alive. But Robb was younger, fueled by determination, and had Greywind snarling at Jaime's heels. The direwolf struck, hamstringing one of Jaime's guards. In that moment of distraction, Robb's pummel caught Jaime across the temple. The Kingslayer went down hard.
We've got him. The Kingslayer is ours.
They bound Jaime in chains as the last of the Lannister forces either fled or surrendered. Robb stood over his prize, breathing hard, blood on his sword and hope in his heart.
Send a raven to King's Landing. Tell them we have Jaime Lannister. Tell them we're willing to trade him for my father.
A bold move, Your Grace. But what if they refuse?
Then we'll march on King's Landing itself, but they won't refuse. Jaime's their best commander, and Cersei's brother. They'll make the trade.
That night, around the campfires, his men celebrated their first major victory. They'd captured the legendary Jaime Lannister without losing more than a handful of men. The young direwolf had proven himself in his first real battle. Robb sat in his tent, writing the ransom demand himself. His father would be free soon. They'd trade Jaime for Ned, and then they could expose the Lannisters' treachery properly, with evidence and eyewitnesses. Everything was falling into place. The Raven arrived 3 days later. Robert Glover's hands shook as he handed Robb the message. The young king's face was still flushed with victory, still confident from capturing Jaime Lannister. He read the letter once, twice, 3 times, as if reading it again might change the words. Eddard Stark, convicted traitor, was executed on the steps of the Great Sept of Baelor by order of His Grace King Joffrey Baratheon. His head has been placed on a spike as a warning to all who would commit treason against the crown. The parchment fell from Robb's fingers. His face went white, then red, then back to white. His hands began to shake.
Your Grace, what does it say?
Robb couldn't speak. His throat had closed. His chest felt like it was being crushed by an invisible weight. He'd been so close to saving his father. And now, Catelyn entered the tent, took one look at her son's face and knew immediately.
No. Oh, gods, no.
Robb finally found his voice, and when he spoke, it was barely a whisper.
They killed him. Joffrey. He executed my father.
The tent erupted in shouts of rage and grief. The Great John overturned a table. Roose Bolton's face went cold and calculating, but Robb just stood there, the weight of failure crushing down on him. He'd captured Jaime Lannister. He'd won his first battle. He'd done everything right, and his father was still dead. Catelyn moved to him, pulling him into an embrace he finally broke. The young wolf wept for his father, for his failure, for everything that had been lost. When his tears finally stopped, something had changed in Robb Stark's eyes. The boy was gone completely. In his place stood a young man who learned the hardest lesson, that sometimes doing everything right still isn't enough.
Bring me Jaime Lannister. Now.
They dragged the Kingslayer into the tent in chains. Jaime's face was bruised from capture.
Come to gloat about your victory, Lord Stark. Your nephew murdered my father. Cut off his head on the steps of the Great Sept. Tell me why I shouldn't do the same to you right now.
The smirk faded. Jaime's face went serious.
Joffrey is a fool. A cruel, stupid boy who should never have been given power. Your father was a good man. An honorable fool, but a good man. He didn't deserve that.
Robb punched the Kingslayer straight across the face, channeling all the anger pent up from the situation.
You're not sorry. You're not sorry for any of it. I'm sorry your father is dead. But I'm not sorry for protecting my family, just as you protect yours.
Robb's hands went to his sword, and for a moment everyone thought he would strike. But then he stopped, took a breath, and stepped back.
You're worth more to me alive. For now, take him back to his cage.
After everything cooled down, Robb went back to his tent to ponder his next move, to come to terms with what had just happened. The Red Waste lived up to its name. Daenerys Targaryen walked through a landscape of death, her small Khalasar dying around her. Khal Drogo was gone, taken by infection and dark magic. Her son was gone, stillborn and twisted. Everything she'd loved had turned to ash. Everything except the 3 eggs Illyrio had given her as a wedding gift. On the funeral pyre, as Drogo's body burned and Mirri Maz Duur screamed her curses, Daenerys walked into the flames. She heard Ser Jorah shouting, felt the heat that should have consumed her, and let it wash over her like a baptism. When dawn broke, the fires died. She stood unburnt amid the ashes, and coiled around her were 3 dragons, living, breathing, impossible dragons. Her people knelt. Drogo, black as midnight, nuzzled against her shoulder. Rhaegal, green and bronze, hissed in the morning sun. And Viserion, cream and gold, wrapped himself around her leg like a cat. They crossed the Red Waste, losing more people every day, until finally they reached Qarth, the greatest city that ever was or will be. But Qarth proved to be as beautiful as it was useless. The merchants and warlocks made promises but delivered nothing. They wanted her dragons, wanted to control her, wanted everything except to actually help her claim her birthright. In her chambers one night, as Drogon slept nearby, Daenerys pulled out the letters again. She'd read them 100 times since Drogo's death, finding comfort in the knowledge that somewhere in Westeros, someone had once cared about her fate. Needing an army for her eventual conquest, Daenerys set out for Astapor, the Red City, where the Unsullied were trained, the only place such an army was acquirable. While there, Ser Barristan Selmy approached from the crowd. He knelt before her.
Your Grace, I am Barristan Selmy, once Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. I served your father, though I failed to save him. If you'll have me, I offer my sword to you now.
Rise, Ser Barristan. I am honored by your service. Tell me, you know Westeros. What news can you bring to me?
The realm is in chaos, Your Grace. Robert Baratheon is dead. Eddard Stark was executed by King Joffrey.
The North has risen in rebellion under Stark's son. Her heart ached at that confirmation. Ned Stark, the man who had shown kindness to a Targaryen in secret, was truly gone. But she had other things to focus on at the moment. Her army. She walked through the Plaza of Pride, watching the slave soldiers march in perfect formation. She knew she'd found her army. Krasnus Monaklos, the slaver, sneered at her in Valyrian, thinking she couldn't understand.
Tell the Westerosi whore that the Unsullied are not for sale to beggars with empty purses.
His translator, Missandei, softened the words.
Master Krasnus asks what you offer in trade for his Unsullied.
Daenerys smiled coldly, understanding every word of Valyrian the fool had spoken.
I offer a dragon.
The translator gasped. Ser Jorah and Ser Selmy urged her to reconsider. Krasnus' eyes lit with greed as he accepted. Daenerys stood before 8,000 Unsullied, the greatest army gold could buy, except she hadn't paid in gold. The dragon flew above the slave trader, hissing at Krasnus as the slaver held the dragon's chain.
This beast is mine. Tell the savage to take the whip and leave my city.
Missandei translated, but Daenerys was already moving. She took the whip from Krasnus' hand, the symbol of command over the Unsullied. Then she spoke in perfect High Valyrian, her voice carrying across the plaza.
Unsullied, kill the masters.
They move as one. Krasnus' face went white as he realized she understood every insult he'd ever spoken.
You cannot do this. The dragon is mine.
A dragon is not a slave. Dracarys.
Fire consumed Krasnus Monaklos. As he burned, screaming, Daenerys addressed her new army.
You have been slaves all your lives. Today you are free. Any man who wishes to leave may do so with no harm, but those who stay will serve not as slaves, but as free men. Will you march with me?
8,000 spears struck the ground in unison, their answer. After all was said and done, Daenerys turned to her advisors, Ser Jorah and Ser Barristan Selmy.
Tell me about Robb Stark.
Young, but capable. He's won every battle he's fought against the Lannisters. His men call him the Young Wolf, but his future is uncertain. Stannis and Renly Baratheon both claim the throne as well. Without allies, he can't win.
A plan crystallized in Daenerys' mind, built on Ned's kindness and her own need for justice.
Then we'll give him allies. Ser Barristan, Ser Jorah, I need you to compose a letter to Robb Stark, King in the North.
Your Grace, what are you proposing?
I'm proposing we help each other. He needs dragons and armies. I need legitimacy and support in Westeros. Together, we can give the Lannisters what they deserve and take back what is rightfully mine.
She thought of her father's letters to Sir Willem, of the marriage proposal that never was, of the kindness Ned Stark had shown when he could have done nothing.
His father tried to help me once. Now I'll help his son. Draft a letter. A marriage proposal. We're going to Westeros.
The months following Ned Stark's execution had been brutal for the North. Robb Stark won battle after battle against the Lannisters, his tactical brilliance earning him the moniker, the Young Wolf. But for every victory on the battlefield, disaster struck elsewhere. Renly Baratheon, who had declared himself king with the Reach and Stormlands behind him, was found dead in his tent at Storm's End. The rumors said his own brother Stannis had used dark magic to murder him, though no one could prove it. Stannis absorbed Renly's forces and marched on King's Landing with the largest army Westeros had seen in years. For a brief moment, it seemed the Lannisters would fall. Stannis' fleet sailed up the Blackwater, his armies besieged the capital, and victory seemed certain. Then, the Tyrells arrived. In a last-second alliance brokered by Littlefinger, House Tyrell joined forces with the Lannisters. Their combined might crushed Stannis' army at the Battle of the Blackwater. The would-be king fled back to Dragonstone, his fleet shattered, his dreams of the Iron Throne in ruins. The Lannister-Tyrell alliance was sealed with a marriage pact. Joffrey would wed Margaery Tyrell, binding the Reach to the crown. Their position became unassailable, their power absolute, and in the north, things grew worse. Theon Greyjoy, Robb's childhood friend, his father's ward, betrayed him. The Ironborn set fire to the northern coast, raiding and pillaging with impunity. Worst of all, Theon took Winterfell itself, and word came that Bran and Rickon Stark were dead, murdered by the Kraken who'd once called them brothers. Then Catelyn Stark, grief-stricken and desperate to save her daughters, committed an unforgivable act. She released Jaime Lannister, the North's most valuable hostage, in exchange for a promise that Sansa and Arya would be returned. Robb's bannermen began to grumble. Lord Karstark raged that his sons had died capturing the Kingslayer, only for Catelyn to throw away their sacrifice. The other lords whispered that perhaps the young wolf wasn't so brilliant after all. Perhaps they'd made a mistake in declaring him king. Robb Stark sat in his command tent in the Westerlands, surrounded by maps and reports, and felt the weight of impending defeat crushing down on him. He'd won every battle, but he was losing the war. The War Council gathered in tense silence. Robb looked around the assembled lords, the Greatjon, Roose Bolton, Rickard Karstark, and his uncle Edmure Tully.
Speak plainly. What's the situation?
Roose Bolton, ever pragmatic, delivered the news in his quiet, unsettling voice.
The Lannister-Tyrell alliance controls the Crownlands, the Reach, and effectively the Stormlands now that Stannis is broken. We hold the North and the Riverlands, but the Ironborn raid our coasts and hold Winterfell. We're surrounded, outnumbered, and losing support.
And whose fault is that? Your mother freed our best hostage. My sons died for nothing.
Lord Karstark, I've told you.
You've told me you handled it, but your mother still breathes while my sons rot in the ground.
The Greatjon stood, his massive frame intimidating even seated lords.
Enough! We're here to find solutions, not point fingers.
What solutions are there? The Tyrells have thrown in their lot with the Lannisters. Stannis is defeated. We can't fight the entire South alone.
Robb stared at the map of Westeros, his mind racing through possibilities, when his squire burst into the tent, his face flushed with exertion and excitement.
Your Grace, forgive the interruption, but a ship has arrived at White Harbor. The captain carried an urgent message. From whom?
From across the narrow sea, Your Grace. From Daenerys Targaryen.
The tent went completely silent. Every eye turned to Robb as he took the letter with steady hands. He broke the seal and began to read, his expression shifting from surprise to disbelief to something that had looked almost like hope. When he finished, he looked up at his bannerman.
She's alive. Daenerys Targaryen is alive.
The Targaryen girl? I thought she married some Dothraki savage and disappeared into the waste.
She did. Her husband died, but she survived. And she has dragons.
Dragons? Real dragons? Not just some legend.
3 of them. And an army of 8,000 unsullied. She's offering an alliance.
What kind of alliance?
A marriage alliance. She'll bring her dragons and armies to Westeros. We'll fight the Lannisters together. And when we win, we rule the 7 kingdoms as king and queen.
The tent erupted in arguments. Some lords shouted their approval, others their horror. Karstark's face turned purple with rage.
You'd marry the Mad King's daughter? Robert Baratheon overthrew that family for good reason.
Robert Baratheon is dead. His son murdered my father. And the Mad King's daughter is offering us the only path to victory I can see.
He pulled out his father's letters, the ones he'd carried since Winterfell, and spread them on the table.
My father believed the Targaryens weren't our enemies. Years ago, he was contacted about a betrothal between me and Daenerys. He couldn't accept then because Robert would have killed us all, but he never said she was evil. He never said she was mad.
The Greatjon studied the letters, his weathered face thoughtful.
Your father was the most honorable man in the 7 kingdoms. If Ned Stark thought the Dragon Girl was worth protecting, that means something.
But we know nothing about her. She could be as mad as her father, or she could be our salvation. Look at our situation, Uncle. The Tyrells have sided with the Lannisters. Stannis is broken. The Ironborn hold Winterfell. My mother has lost her best hostage. We're alone, surrounded, and losing support and morale across the camp. This alliance gives us dragons. Actual dragons. She gives us 8,000 professionally trained soldiers. It gives us legitimacy as liberators rather than rebels. Most importantly, it gives us a chance to win a war we're currently losing and get revenge for my father.
And if she betrays us, if this is some Targaryen scheme, then we'll be no worse off than we are now.
But I don't think she will. Her guardian wrote to my father seeking protection for her when she was a child. My father responded with kindness. Now she's repaying that debt. That speaks to her character.
I say we accept. The North needs allies, and if the old gods see fit to send us dragons, who are we to refuse?
One by one, the other lords voiced their agreement. Even Karstark, though he did so with obvious reluctance and anger still burning in his eyes.
Then it is settled. Compose my reply. Tell Daenerys Targaryen that the North accepts her offer with gratitude and honor. Tell her that winter is coming, and we'll face it together. The wolf and the dragon. Ice and fire united at last.
As the squire left to write the letter, Robb looked down at his father's old correspondence and whispered so quietly only Greatjon could hear.
Thank you, Father. Even in death, you're still saving us.
His bannermen watched him expectantly, waiting to see what their young king would do next.
We've been focused on the Lannisters while our own home burns. That changes now. We're changing tactics.
He moved to the map, pointing out their positions.
We hold our lines in the Westerlands and the Riverlands. Roose, you'll command the holding forces here. Keep the Lannisters contained, but don't overextend. We can't afford more losses.
And you, Your Grace?
I'll take the main force north. We're driving the Kraken from our lands. First Winterfell, then Deepwood Motte, then every god's damned rock and the Ironborn have stolen from us.
The change in his demeanor was palpable. For weeks, his men had watched him struggle, seen him lose ground, politically, even as he won battles. But now, with dragons coming and a clear objective, something had shifted. The Great John grinned broadly.
Now that's the young wolf I know. Finally, we'll stop reacting and start acting.
What about my revenge? What about Jaime Lannister?
You'll have it, Lord Karstark. Once the north is secure, once we have dragons at our side, we'll march south and burn the Lannisters from their castles. But first, we save our home. Are we agreed?
One by one, his bannermen voiced their approval. The promise of dragons and a clear path had restored something that had been slipping away. Their faith in their king. The army marched north with purpose, and within a fortnight they stood before the walls of Winterfell. Robb rode forward under a white flag, his voice carrying across the field.
Ironborn, you hold my castle. You've raided my lands. You've murdered my people. But I'm prepared to offer terms. Give me Theon Greyjoy. Surrender the castle peacefully, and I'll grant you safe passage from this castle.
But there was no answer. Not a soul in Winterfell, it seemed. Robb stormed the castle, and as they thought, there was no resistance. As they opened the gates, they saw a man with a black hood over his head, knocked out on the ground. Theon Greyjoy. Theon knelt in the godswood of Winterfell, the heart tree's carved face watching impassively. Robb stood before him, while his bannermen formed a circle around them. Their eyes met. Theon's face went white.
Robb, Don't say a word. Where are my brother's bodies? They were alive, I swear. I didn't kill them. I burned 2 farm boys' bodies instead. I never...
Robb grabbed him by the throat and slammed him against the wall.
Then at least you didn't add kinslaying to your crimes. Small mercy. You lied to me, betrayed me, took my home, and you expect mercy. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I was trying to prove myself to my father. Your father? Ned Stark was more of a father to you than Balon Greyjoy ever was. You're right. I was stupid, Robb. I don't even know who I am anymore. You betrayed my family, Theon. The family that raised you, that loved you, that treated you as one of their own. You took our home. You terrorized our people. You made us believe our brothers were dead. My father taught me that the man who passes this sentence should swing the sword. Theon Greyjoy, I sentence you to die for treason, murder, and oath-breaking. Do you have any last words?
Theon looked around at the faces of the people he'd grown up with, people who now looked at him with hatred and disgust. Finally, he looked back at Robb.
I'm sorry. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Tell Bran and Rickon. Tell them I'm glad they're alive. I will.
The blade fell swift and clean. Theon Greyjoy's head rolled across the Grodwood's ancient stones, and with it died the boy who tried to be something he never was. The search for Bran and Rickon took 3 days. They were found hiding in the crypts, protected by Osha the Wildling woman, Hodor, and the Reed siblings, Mira and Jojen, who had arrived from the Neck to help. The reunion was emotional and tearful. Catelyn held her sons as if she'd never let go, while Robb knelt before Bran, taking his brother's hands in his.
I thought you were dead. I thought I'd failed you. You didn't fail us. You came back. You saved us.
Rickon threw himself at Robb, sobbing into his older brother's shoulder. For a moment, the young wolf let himself be just a brother again, holding his family close. But the moment couldn't last. Robb stood, his expression hardening as he turned to his mother.
Mother, you'll remain here at Winterfell with Bran and Rickon.
Robb, I want to march with you.
You released Jaime Lannister. You betrayed my trust and cost us the most valuable hostage. The only reason you're not in chains yourself is because you're my mother. But I can't have you in my war council. Not anymore.
I did it for your sisters.
I know why you did it. And I understand. But understanding doesn't mean I can trust you again. Not again. Perhaps not ever. Take care of my brothers. Keep them safe. That's how you can help me now.
He turned and left the hall, and Catelyn felt the weight of her mistake crushing down on her. With Winterfell secure and his brother safe, Robb turned his attention to the remaining Ironborn threat. Deepwood Motte, ancestral seat of House Glover, was still held by Asha Greyjoy and her raiders. Robb sent ravens to coordinate with Daenerys, proposing a joint assault. Her reply came swiftly. She would meet him at Deepwood Motte with her full forces. The Northern Army marched west, and as they neared the Glover lands, scouts reported ships on the horizon. Hundreds of them. The Great John stood beside Robb on a hilltop, watching the fleet approach.
By the old gods, those are actual dragons. I can see them.
3 shapes circled above the ships, massive winged forms that grew larger as they approached. Even from a distance, their presence was overwhelming. Robb felt his heart pounding. Everything hinged on this moment. The alliance his father had planned for, the hope his army needed, the power to defeat the Lannisters. All of it was real. The fleet landed on the rocky shores of North Deepwood Motte, and the Unsullied began disembarking with military precision. 8,000 soldiers in perfect formation, their discipline evident in every movement. Then a small boat came ashore, and from it stepped a young woman with silver gold hair, wearing armor marked with the three-headed dragon. Behind her landed Drogon, the largest of her dragons, his black scales gleaming like obsidian. Robb rode forward with a small honor guard, the Greatjon, Small John Umber, and a dozen picked men. Greywind padded beside his horse, the direwolf's ears locked on the newcomers. They met on neutral ground between the armies. Robb dismounted, and Daenerys walked forward to meet them. For a moment, they simply studied each other. Robb saw a young woman barely older than himself, beautiful but scarred by hardship, with violet eyes that held both kindness and steel. Daenerys saw a tall young man with auburn hair and blue eyes, carrying himself with natural authority despite his youth.
Daenerys Targaryen, welcome to the North.
Robb Stark, thank you for trusting in your father's wisdom.
An awkward silence fell. Then Greywind approached Daenerys slowly, sniffing cautiously. To everyone's surprise, the direwolf sat down and allowed her to touch his head.
He's beautiful. I've always had a way with beasts.
Greywind doesn't trust easily. You've made a good first impression.
I've found the letters, you know, after Sir Willem died. I couldn't believe that Ned Stark, the man I'd been taught to hate, had shown my guardian such kindness.
My father judged people by their actions, not their bloodlines. He would have liked you, I think.
I wish I could have known him. The letters painted him as a rare man in a world of opportunists.
The Lannisters murdered him, cut off his head, and mounted it on a spike for the crows.
Then we'll give him justice. Together.
She turned and gestured to her forces, the Unsullied standing in perfect ranks, the Dothraki Bloodriders, Sir Barristan and Sir Jorah on horseback, and overhead, 3 dragons circling like gods of old.
You wanted dragons, Your Grace. I've brought you 3. Now show me how we're going to use them.
The War Council met that night in a large tent erected between the 2 armies. Northern lords sat beside Unsullied commanders, an unprecedented mixing of cultures and military traditions. Robb spread a map of Deepwood Motte on the table.
The Ironborn hold the castle with about 800 men. Asha Greyjoy commands them, Theon's sister. She's competent, aggressive, and she's had time to fortify her position. The castles sit on high ground. Approach from the land is difficult. Many casualties to take walls.
Which is why we won't rely on walls. My Unsullied will land at the docks to the west. The Ironborn won't expect an attack from the sea. We'll drive them inland, force them to divide their attention.
And my forces will attack from the east at the same time. We'll have them trapped between 2 armies.
And the dragons, Your Grace.
Drogon will ensure their wooden fortifications don't provide much protection. 1 breath of dragonfire, and those walls will become kindling.
The Greatjon slammed his fist on the table enthusiastically.
I like this, Your Grace. She thinks like a northerner. What about the prisoners?
Any who surrender will be spared. We're not here to slaughter them. We're here to drive them from the north. But any who fight to the death will get their wish.
Dawn broke, gray and cold, over Deepwood Motte. Little did they know Asha Greyjoy had already left, knowing she could not hold the structure outright. Without her leadership, the Ironborn had grown complacent. Weeks without attack had made them lazy. Then a sentry shouted, pointing toward the sea.
Ships, dozens of them.
Before the Ironborn raiders could fully mobilize, the Unsullied were already moving up to the paths from the beach. Grey Worm led the charge, his warriors advancing in a pseudo-formation, shields locked, spears bristling like porcupine. The Ironborn rushed to meet them, axes and swords raised. They crashed into the Unsullied like a wave against a cliff, and broke. The Unsullied fought with mechanical precision, each man protecting his brothers, spears thrusting in rhythm. The Ironborn were fierce fighters, but they were disorganized, undisciplined. Against professional soldiers, they did not stand a chance. Then the sky darkened. Drogon descended from the clouds, his massive form blotting out the morning sun. The dragon opened his jaws, and fire erupted forth in a torrent of destruction. The wooden palisades exploded into flames. Ironborn screamed, throwing down their weapons and running. The Ironborn watched in horror as their defenses were incinerated in seconds.
Retreat to the keep! Fall back!
But there was nowhere to fall back to. From the eastern side, the northern army crashed into the castle. The Greatjon led the charge, his massive form wielding a sword as tall as most men. He carved through the Ironborn like a farmer through wheat.
For Winterfell! For the north!
Greywind tore into the defenders alongside his pack of direwolves, Summer and Shaggy Dog. The wolves were nightmare-made flesh, their jaws finding throats and legs with brutal efficiency. Robb fought his way through the chaos, his sword rising and falling. He saw the Ironborn commander trying to organize a last stand near the keep and redirect his forces to surround him. Within 2 hours, it was over. The Ironborn were dead, captured, or surrendered. As the Ironborn dead were dealt with, Daenerys found Robb standing in the Great Hall of Deepwood Motte. The Glover banners were being raised once more. The castle returned to its rightful lords.
Your first battle commanding dragons. How do you feel?
Powerful. Terrified. The dragons they're more devastating than I imagined. One dragon did more damage in minutes than my army could do in hours.
Now imagine what 3 dragons can do to King's Landing, to Casterly Rock, to every Lannister stronghold in Westeros.
We should talk about the marriage, about what comes next.
We should be, but there's something else first.
What?
Your mother released Jaime Lannister. You're angry with her. I can see it. But Robb, she did it out of love for your sisters. Misguided, perhaps, but love nonetheless.
How did you...
Sir Barristan told me. He knows the weight of difficult decisions. I just want you to know, I understand family. I understand doing terrible things because you love someone. Don't let your anger at her destroy what you have left.
Robb was quiet for a long moment.
You're wise beyond your years.
I've had to be. Now, about this marriage. Shall we make it official? Or are you having second thoughts about allying with the Mad King's daughter?
No second thoughts. Let's do this properly. The North has its traditions, and I intend to honor them.
Then show me these northern traditions of yours. I've always wanted to see a proper Westerosi wedding.
The God's Wood at Deepwood Motte was small but ancient, with a heart tree whose face seemed to watch the proceedings with solemn approval. Snow fell gently as Robb Stark and Daenerys Targaryen stood before it, surrounded by their combined forces. Maester Luwin, who had survived from his wounds at the hand of the Ironborn, had traveled from Winterfell to perform the ceremony, both before the old gods and the new, to honor both their traditions. Robb wore his father's ceremonial furs, while Daenerys wore a gown of white and red that Sir Barristan had commissioned for her. Targaryen colors and Stark colors woven together.
Who comes before the old gods this night? Robb of House Stark, King in the North, comes to claim Daenerys of House Targaryen.
Daenerys Stormborn of House Targaryen comes to claim Robb of House Stark.
And who stands to witness this union?
The North stands to witness.
The Unsullied stand to witness.
House Targaryen stands to witness.
Then speak your vows before the gods and all witnesses.
Robb took Daenerys' hand in his voice steady despite the enormity of the moment.
I, Robb Stark, take you, Daenerys Targaryen, to be my wife, to stand with you in battle, to rule beside you in peace, to honor you in all things, before the old gods and the new. I swear this oath.
I, Daenerys Targaryen, take you, Robb Stark, to be my husband, to stand with you in battle, to rule beside you in peace, to honor you in all things, before the old gods and the new. I swear this oath.
They sealed the vow with a kiss as dragons roared overhead and Northmen cheered. 2 houses, wolf and dragon, united at last. That night, at the feast, Robb and Daenerys sat at the high table, receiving congratulations and well-wishes from their bannermen. The hall was filled with an unusual mix. Northern lords drinking beside unsullied officers, Dothraki blood riders sharing stories with grizzled veterans. The Greatjon, already deep in his cups, raised a toast.
To the King in the North and his Dragon Queen, may their enemies burn and their children be strong.
The hall erupted in cheers. Daenerys leaned close to Robb.
Your men are enthusiastic.
They're northern. We don't do anything by halves, especially drinking.
She laughed, and he realized it was the first time he'd heard her laugh freely, feelings of love swelling within the young wolf. The War Council convened at Winterfell the morning after the wedding festivities concluded. Robb and Daenerys sat at the head of the table, with their combined commanders arrayed before them.
Before we turn our attention south to Lannisters, we need to deal with the threat at our rear, the Ironborn.
The Ironborn are in disarray. Balon Greyjoy is dead, murdered by his own brother Euron, according to our spies. They are focused on the Kingsmoot, arguing over succession between Euron, Asha, and Victarion.
Then we strike while they're distracted. A surprise attack before they can organize a defense.
How do we get our armies there? We need ships.
We have ships. The ones we captured from the Ironborn at Deepwood Motte, combined with the fleet Daenerys brought from Essos, and Lord Manderley's vessels from White Harbor. We have enough to transport our forces.
Surprise is a great advantage,
But Iron Islands have many warriors who fight hard for their home.
Then they'll die hard. The dragons will ensure our victory.
The invasion fleet sailed under cover of darkness, approaching the Iron Islands from multiple directions. The Ironborn sentries were focused inward, watching the Kingsmoot proceedings at Old Wick, where Euron, Asha, and Victarion Greyjoy argued over who would wear the Seastone crown. When the alarm finally sounded, it was already too late. The Unsullied landed at Pike's Harbor in perfect formation, their disciplined ranks crushing the disorganized Ironborn defenders who scrambled to mount a defense. Northern forces hit Harlaw and Great Wick simultaneously, spreading the Ironborn too thin to mount effective resistance. And then the dragons came. Drogon, Rhaegal, and Viserion descended on Old Wick like the wrath of ancient gods themselves. The longships in the harbor erupted in flames, centuries-old vessels reduced to ash in moments. The crude wooden fortifications burned like kindling. Ironborn warriors who prided themselves on their fearlessness broke and ran screaming from the firestorm. At the Kingsmoot grounds, Euron Greyjoy stood defiant as the armies closed in around him, his one eye blazing with madness.
We are Ironborn. We do not sour. We take what is ours with fire and...
Drogon's flames consumed him mid-sentence. Euron Greyjoy, the Crow's Eye, died screaming, his body nothing but ash before it hit the ground. Victarion Greyjoy attempted to rally a defense at Pike's Castle, organizing the Ironborn into shield walls, but Greywind led a pack of direwolves through the defenders like death incarnate. The Iron Captain fell with wolves' jaws around his throat, his brother's blood on his lips. Asha Greyjoy, seeing the hopelessness of resistance and the fate of her uncles, threw down her axe and knelt, her crew following her lead. By sunset, the Iron Islands had fallen. The surviving Ironborn lords were brought before Robb and Daenerys in chains, forced to kneel on the blood-soaked stones of Pike's courtyard.
You've raided the north for generations, murdered our people, stole our children, burned our villages. Today that ends forever.
One of the lords, Lord Harlaw, spat at Robb's feet defiantly.
Kill us then, Wolfpop. We'll die as we lived.
Free men who bow to no king.
Daenerys stood, Drogon landing behind her, with an earth-shaking thud that cracked the courtyard stones.
As you wish, Dracarys.
The dragon fire consumed them all in seconds. A dozen Ironborn lords reduced to ash and charred bone. The surviving captains and reavers watched in absolute horror, then quickly bent the knee, their defiance evaporating like morning mist. Robb turned to Waymond Manderly, who commanded the White Harbor fleet during the invasion with distinction.
Lord Manderly, the Iron Islands need a new warden. Someone who understands the sea, who can be firm but fair, and who has the strength to keep the Ironborn in line.
Your Grace, I am honored, but these are dangerous, treacherous people.
Which is why you'll have a garrison of Unsullied and Crannogmen under your command. The Unsullied will maintain order, and the Crannogmen know how to move unseen. They'll ensure no rebellion takes root.
Any Ironborn who tries to rebel will be fed to the dragons. Make that very clear to them.
It shall be done, your graces.
The Iron Islands will serve the crown faithfully, or they'll sink between the waves.
The captured Ironborn ships, hundreds of longships and war galleys, were seized for use in the coming campaign against the Lannisters. The Kraken banners were torn down and burned, replaced by the direwolf and three-headed dragon. The Iron Islands, terror of the northern seas for thousands of years, had been conquered in a single day. Winterfell's gates opened to admit two travel-worn figures, a young woman with a dirty face and a sword at her hip, and a massive, scarred man in battle armor that had seen better days. The guards recognized them immediately and rushed forward.
Lady Arya! She's alive! Lady Arya has returned!
Arya Stark walked into the courtyard she'd thought she'd never see again, and her family came rushing out. Catelyn screamed her daughter's name, her voice cracking with joy and disbelief. Bran and Rickon rolled and ran forward. Even Robb, the king in the north, abandoned all dignity and sprinted across the courtyard to embrace his little sister.
Robb! I heard tavern tales about you marrying a dragon queen, and I thought I was hearing drunk sailor stories.
It's all true, every word. But by the gods, Arya, you're alive. You're still alive.
They held each other fiercely. The Stark children reunited after so much death and separation. Catelyn joined them, pulling Arya into a crushing embrace while sobbing openly.
My baby. My fierce little girl. You came home to us.
I promised Father I'd be strong. I'd survive no matter what.
The mention of Ned brought tears to everyone's eyes, but they were tears of bittersweet relief now, not just grief. At least some of them had survived. At least the pack endured. Robb finally noticed the large man standing awkwardly to the side. Sandor Clegane, the Hound, looking profoundly uncomfortable with all the emotional reunions. Robb approached him, extending his hand.
You brought her home. Name your price. Gold, lands, titles. Whatever you want is yours.
I don't want your bloody gold or your fancy titles.
Then what do you want?
The Hound looked at Arya, who was chattering excitedly with her brothers, gesturing wildly as she told them animated stories about their travels.
The girl's got potential. Could be a real fighter if someone trains her properly. Keeps her from doing stupid shit.
I want to stay here. Join your guard. Keep an eye on her. Make sure she doesn't get herself killed doing something monumentally stupid.
I'm standing right here, you know.
Aye, and you're already planning something stupid. I can see it in your eyes. You've got that look.
Robb studied the Hound carefully, a man with a terrible reputation, scarred inside and out, but who'd somehow kept his sister alive through a war-torn continent.
You'd swear an oath to me. To House Stark.
I'll swear an oath to keep the girl alive and fight for you. That's the best I can do. No flowery words, no empty promises.
Then I accept. Welcome to the service of House Stark, Sender Clegane, and thank you, truly, for bringing my sister home safely.
Does this mean I get to train with a real sword now? A proper one?
Absolutely not.
Yes.
Catelyn glared at him, but Robb just smiled and shrugged.
She survived this long on her own, Mother. Clearly she can handle herself. We should respect that. Besides, we need every skilled fighter we can get for what's coming.
Days later, the War Council reconvened in Winterfell's Great Hall. With the Iron Islands secured, the Ironborn threat eliminated, and the family reunited, it was finally time to plan the invasion of the South. Maps of the Crownlands and the Reach covered the Great Table.
The Lannisters are entrenched in King's Landing, and with the Tyrells backing them. But with our combined forces and 3 dragons, we can break their alliance. We'll strike it.
A raven burst through the window with such violence that several guards drew their swords instinctively. The bird crashed onto the table, clearly exhausted from a desperate, urgent flight. Maester Luwin retrieved the message with trembling hands, and as he read it, his face went completely ashen.
Your Grace, it's from Castle Black, from Lord Commander Jon Snow.
Everyone in the room turned to Robb. The tension was suddenly thick enough to cut with a blade. He took the letter and read it, his expression growing grimmer with each line, his knuckles whitening as he gripped the parchment. When he finished, he looked up at his assembled commanders, his face grave.
Jon is Lord Commander of the Night's Watch now. He's calling for aid. A wildling army, 100,000 strong, is marching on the wall.
100,000? That's...
And behind them comes something worse. Much worse.
Worse than 100,000
wildlings? What could possibly be worse? What's he talking about, Your Grace?
The White Walkers. The others. The legends old Nan told us as children. They're real, and they're coming.
Your Grace, with all due respect, those are children's stories. Campfire tales to scare.
Jon wouldn't lie about this. He wouldn't call for help unless the threat was real and immediate. And he says the wall might not hold.
The laughter died immediately. The assembled lords looked at each other with growing unease.
But surely the Night's Watch can handle some wildlings, even that many. They've held the wall for thousands of years. It's not wildlings he's worried about. It's what's chasing them south. What's driving them to the wall in the first place.
He looked around the table at his bannermen, at Daenerys, at the commanders who'd followed him through fire and battle, who'd trusted him with their lives.
The Lannisters can wait. King's Landing can wait. Revenge can wait. If the wall falls, if these things break through and march south, none of this matters. There won't be a 7 kingdoms left to rule. There won't be anyone left to save.
Then we march north. All of us. Every soldier. Every dragon. We face this threat together.
Your Graces, with respect, we've just conquered the Iron Islands. Our armies are positioned perfectly to strike south while the Lannisters are unprepared and weakened. If we delay now...
If we delay, my brother and the Night's Watch die. And whatever's coming from beyond the wall, these White Walkers, these others, they march south completely unopposed. Do you understand what that means, Lord Bolton?
He looked at the letter again, his voice barely above a whisper as he read Jon's final words aloud.
Brother, I don't know if we can hold them, but we'll die trying. Come quickly. Winter has come.
The hall fell into absolute silence. Even the crackle of the hearth seemed muted.
Ready the armies. Send riders to every corner of the north, every man who can hold a weapon. We march for Castle Black at first light tomorrow.
And the dragons will fly ahead as scouts. If these White Walkers are truly real, they're about to learn what dragon fire can do to ice.
The hall erupted into organized chaos. Orders shouted, supplies frantically gathered, forces mobilized with desperate urgency. The war for the Iron Throne was being put on indefinite hold, because something older and far more dangerous than any Lannister was coming from the frozen north, and it brought the long night with it. What if Robb Stark married Daenerys Targaryen? Part 2. Let's explore the depths of it in the video. King's Landing, the day of King Joffrey's wedding to Margaery Tyrell. The feast was a spectacle of excess. Musicians played, acrobats performed, and the guests gorged themselves on delicacies from across the 7 kingdoms. Joffrey sat at the high table, drunk on wine and power, tormenting his uncle Tyrion for the amusement of the crowd. Tyrion Lannister endured the humiliation with gritted teeth, pouring wine for the boy king, while Sansa watched from nearby, her face carefully neutral despite the horror in her eyes. Joffrey demanded more wine, and threatened that if he were to spill it this time, he'd have him licking it off the floor. The crowd laughed cruelly. Tyrion poured, his hand steady despite his rage. Then Joffrey took a drink from his cup, and another. His face suddenly went red, then purple. He clawed at his throat, gasping for air that wouldn't come.
Joffrey, someone help him. Help my son.
But it was too late. The boy king collapsed, convulsing on the ground, foam bubbling from his lips. Within moments, Joffrey Baratheon was dead. Chaos erupted. Cersei screamed accusations, pointing at Tyrion with a shaking finger.
Him. He poisoned my son. Seize him. Seize the imp.
Tyrion's mind raced. He knew instantly that this was a setup. Someone had poisoned Joffrey and arranged for him to take the blame. And Sansa, who'd have all the reason to kill the king, would be implicated as well. He looked around frantically for his wife and spotted her being quietly led away by Sir Dontos Hollard, the fool, toward a side exit. Guards were already moving toward him, but Tyrion was faster. He ran as fast as his short legs could carry him, dodging between panicking guests and overturned tables. He tumbled down a small hill into the gardens, rolling right in front of Sansa and Dontos.
Sansa, wait. Don't go with him.
Tyrion? What are you?
You're in danger. We both are. Whoever killed Joffrey set us up to take the fall. If you go with him, you're walking into a trap.
My lady, we must hurry. The ship is waiting.
Which ship? Whose ship? Who sent you to retrieve her?
Dontos hesitated, and Tyrion saw the truth in his eyes.
Littlefinger. It's Littlefinger, isn't it? The man who betrayed your father, Sansa. The man who sold Ned Stark to the Lannisters.
Lord Baelish. But he said he was trying to help me.
And now Joffrey is conveniently dead, and you're being spirited away to God knows where. Think, Sansa. Whoever killed Joffrey did it for power. Littlefinger always plays for power. If you go with him, you'll become his pawn.
Sansa looked between Tyrion and Dontos, her mind racing. Everything Tyrion said made horrible sense.
Then what do we do?
We run. Both of us. We flee north to your brother. Robb won't execute me if I bring you home safely. It's our only chance.
How do we even get out of the city?
I know people. Bronn owes me a favor. We can make it to the docks. Find a ship headed north. But we have to go now, before Cersei's guards lock down every gate.
Fine. I'm coming with you.
But my lady...
Tell Lord Baelish I chose my family over his schemes.
They ran into the night, leaving chaos behind them. Winterfell's courtyard was organized chaos as the Northmen army prepared to march for the wall. Wagons are loaded with supplies. Horses were saddled, and the Unsullied stood in perfect formation awaiting orders. Robb stood with Daenerys, reviewing supply lists, when the guards at the gate shouted,
"Riders approaching. 2 of them. And one's a dwarf."
Robb's hand went instinctively to his sword, but when he saw her, Sansa riding a horse far too large for her auburn hair streaming behind her, and beside her Tyrion Lannister, looking exhausted and travel-worn.
"Sansa!"
He ran across the courtyard, pulling his sister from her horse into a fierce embrace. Catelyn appeared from the keep, screaming her daughter's name, and suddenly the whole family was there. Arya, Bran, Rickon, all crowding around Sansa with tears and laughter.
I'm home. I'm finally home.
I can't believe it. I thought I'd never see you again.
The sisters held each other, both crying openly. For a moment, all the war and death and pain faded away. The pack was together. Then Robb noticed Tyrion, still sitting on his horse, watching the reunion with a mixture of relief and wariness.
"Lord Tyrion, this is unexpected."
Tyrion dismounted carefully, his legs clearly sore from the long ride.
Your Grace, I understand this looks suspicious, a Lannister appearing at your gates with your sister, but I assure you, I have explanations.
Then explain quickly.
Joffrey is dead, poisoned at his own wedding. Someone, I suspect, Littlefinger, arranged to implicate both myself and Sansa. We fled before we could be arrested and executed. I brought her here because it was the only safe place I could think of.
He saved my life, Robb. He could have escaped alone, but he came back for me. He got us out of King's Landing while Littlefinger's men were trying to take me.
Robb studied Tyrion carefully, seeing genuine exhaustion and fear in the dwarf's eyes.
You could have fled to Essos, started a new life far from all this. Why come here? You know I have every reason to hate your family.
Because there's nothing left for me in King's Landing. My father despises me, my sister just tried to frame me for murder, and the Lannister name is more burden than benefit. I'm asking for asylum, Your Grace, and offering my services in return.
What services could you possibly offer me?
I know the Lannisters, their tactics, their weaknesses, their resources. I know King's Landing's defenses. I'm passably skilled at strategy and excellent with finances. And most importantly, I just committed what my family will consider the ultimate betrayal. I have nowhere else to go.
You saved his sister when you could have saved yourself. That speaks to your character.
Or stupidity. I haven't quite decided which yet.
He's telling the truth, Robb. He risked everything to get me out.
Then welcome to the North, Lord Tyrion. Your counsel is accepted. But betray us, and there won't be a hole deep enough for you to hide in. Perfectly understandable. Now, might I trouble someone for a very large cup of wine? It's been a trying few weeks.
As servants took Tyrion to get food and rest, Robb pulled Sansa aside.
We're marching to the wall. Jon sent word. There's some threat coming from beyond. Something ancient and terrible.
Then I'm coming with you.
No. You're staying here with Mother and Arya. Winterfell needs to be held, and I need you safe.
I'm not a child anymore, Robb. I survived King's Landing. I survived Joffrey.
I know you can. But please, Sansa, let me do this. Let me protect what's left of our family. Stay here. Be safe.
Be careful. Come back to us.
I will. I promise.
The combined army that marched to Castle Black was the largest force assembled in living memory. 20,000 Northmen, 8,000 Unsullied, 3,000 Dothraki, and 3 dragons flying overhead. They arrived to find Castle Black already under siege, but not by wildlings. Stannis Baratheon had arrived first with his knights and forces from Dragonstone, the wildling army. Mance raiders, 100,000. They lay scattered and defeated across the field. Stannis' cavalry had routed them decisively. Jon Snow stood on the wall, watching Robb's army approach, and felt a relief wash over him. His brother had come. The North had answered. But when Robb's forces arrived and he dismounted to greet Jon, they found Stannis Baratheon waiting in Castle Black's courtyard, his face set in its perpetual scowl.
So, the usurper king in the north arrives, and he brings a Targaryen usurper with him. How convenient.
Robb's hand went to his sword, but Daenerys placed a calming hand on his arm.
Lord Stannis, we're here to fight the real enemy, not each other.
I am the rightful king of the Seven Kingdoms, Robert's heir. You're a Targaryen exile with stolen dragons. And you, Stark, you're a rebel who's declared independence from the rightful crown. Explain to me why I shouldn't arrest you both.
Because you failed, and because there are more important things happening right now than your claim to a throne.
My claim? My claim? I am the eldest surviving Baratheon. The throne is mine by every law.
Your brother stole it from my family. I have a better claim.
The tension ratcheted higher. Stannis' knights moved their hands to their swords. The northern forces did the same. Bloodshed seemed inevitable. Then Jon Snow stepped forward, his voice cutting through the anger.
Enough! All of you, enough!
Everyone turned to look at the Lord Commander, who stood with Ghost at his side, his face carved with exhaustion and frustration.
You want to fight over a throne? Fine. Do it after we've survived what's coming. Because right now, beyond the wall, there's an army of the dead. Actual dead people walking around, killing everything in their path. They don't care who's king. They don't care about your claims or your pride. They just want to kill us all. If you fight each other now, we all die. Every man, woman, and child in Westeros. Because that's what the White Walkers will do if we don't stand together. So put aside your grievances, swallow your pride, and help me defend the realms of men. Or go home and wait for the dead to come for you there.
The silence that followed was profound. Then, from above, came the sound of massive wings. 3 dragons descended. Drogon landed behind Daenerys as expected, his massive black form a clear statement of her power. But then Rhaegal, the green and bronze dragon, landed near Jon Snow and did something extraordinary. The dragon approached Jon slowly, sniffing at him with obvious curiosity. Then Rhaegal lowered his head and pressed against Jon's chest, making a sound almost like a purr.
What is he doing?
He's never done that with anyone but me. It's like he recognizes you somehow.
Then Viserion, the cream and gold dragon, landed near Stannis. The king's hand went to his sword immediately.
Keep your beast away from me, Targaryen.
But Viserion didn't attack. Instead, the dragon lowered his head submissively, whimpering softly as he pressed his snout against Stannis' chest. Stannis stood frozen, his sword half drawn, utterly bewildered. Melisandre, the Red Priestess who accompanied Stannis north, gasped audibly.
The Lord of Light has shown me truth. The dragons recognize their own blood.
What are you talking about, woman?
Your grandmother was Rhaella Targaryen. The dragon senses the blood of old Valyria flowing through your veins.
Daenerys approached slowly, studying both Jon and Stannis with new interest.
The dragons don't bond with just anyone. If they're reacting to you like this, there must be Targaryen blood in you. Both of you.
That's impossible. I'm Ned Stark's bastard.
Are you? The flames have shown me mysteries about your birth, Jon Snow. Secrets that Ned Stark took to his grave.
The cryptic words hung in the air, but there was no time to pursue them. The moment of tension had passed, replaced by wonder and possibility.
Whatever the truth of your bloodlines, the dragons have chosen you. If willing, I'll teach you both to ride. 3 dragon riders are better than 1.
Stannis looked at the dragon still pressed against him, then at Robb and Daenerys.
I came north because Melisandre said my destiny was here.
Perhaps this is what she meant.
Very well. A temporary alliance. We face the dead together. After that, we can resume arguing about thrones.
Agreed. The living come first.
With their temporary alliance forged and tensions eased by the dragon's unexpected bonding, Jon and Robb turned to the next crucial task. Ravens were sent to every corner of Westeros, to Casterly Rock, to Highgarden, to Sunspear. The messages were identical and urgent.
We have captured proof of the threat beyond the wall. Come to Castle Black and see the truth with your own eyes. What marches south will destroy us all if we do not stand together. This is not a request. This is a warning. Jon Snow, Lord Commander of the Night's Watch.
The boldness of the claim, that they possessed actual living proof of White Walkers, was enough to compel even the most skeptical lords to investigate. Lord Tywin Lannister, ever pragmatic, recognized that such a claim wouldn't be made lightly. Olenna Tyrell, curious and sharp-minded, couldn't resist seeing what could possibly unite the fractious North with Stannis Baratheon. And Prince Doran Martell, always cautious but thorough, sent Oberyn as his representative to witness the supposed impossibility. Within a fortnight, representatives from the great houses began arriving at Castle Black, each expecting to expose a northern hoax or political maneuver. What they found instead would shatter every assumption they held about the world. Jon led them deeper into the ice cells beneath Castle Black, where something impossible waited in chains. The White Walker stood nearly 7 feet tall, its skin pale as ice, its eyes glowing blue with unnatural light. Even chained and bound with dragonglass-tipped restraints, it radiated cold and menace. Tywin Lannister, who'd arrived via Raven's summon with Olenna Tyrell, stared at the creature with undisguised horror.
7 hells. It's real.
Olenna, despite her age and experience, looked shaken.
I lived 70 years and seen many things, but this changes everything.
Finally, an enemy worth fighting. Something that can't be bought, seduced, or poisoned. I like it. This is what's coming. Thousands of them. With an army of dead men that can't be killed except by fire or dragonglass. If they break through the wall, they'll sweep across Westeros like a plague. We can't stop them alone. We need every sword, every soldier, every kingdom united.
In Dorne, Prince Doran Martell read the Raven's message and immediately summoned his forces.
Send word to every castle in Dorne. We march north with every spear we can muster. This threat is real, and we will not hide while the world ends.
In King's Landing, Tywin and Olenna held a private council after seeing the captured walker.
The threat is real. If we don't act, we're condemning everyone to death.
But if we join them, we're surrendering any claim to power. Your grandson is dead. The North has dragons and the largest army in Westeros. We can't win, Tywin.
I am aware, but consider the alternative. If we fight them, we lose and die. If we ignore the threat beyond the wall, we'll all die anyway. But if we join them now, pledge our forces, at least we can keep our lives and our lands.
You're suggesting we surrender?
I am suggesting we be pragmatic. The Boy King has dragons and the loyalty of half of Westeros. His wife is a Targaryen with a legitimate claim, and they're offering us a way out of this that lets us keep our lands.
You've changed, Tywin. The old you would have fought to the bitter end.
The old me didn't have to face dragons and the dead. Pride is worthless when you're extinct.
Then we join them. We save our grandchildren and our houses. The rest can be sorted out later.
The armies assembled at the wall. The North, the Unsullied, the Dothraki, Stannis' forces, the Tyrells, the Lannisters, even the Dornish, and the Wildlings, Mance Raider's 100,000, who'd been given safe passage through the wall in exchange for fighting. It was the largest army ever gathered in Westeros, and it barely felt like enough. Jon stood beside Robb on the wall, looking out at the assembled forces.
I never thought I'd see a Northman fighting alongside Lannisters and Wildlings. Desperate times. How long until they come? Hours, maybe less. The scouts report the dead are moving faster now. Like they sense the living gathering here. Then we'll be ready.
Tyrion approached, somehow looking both terrified and determined.
Your Grace,
I've distributed the dragonglass weapons as widely as possible. Every man has at least a dagger, but there aren't enough for everyone.
Then we'll have to rely on fire and the dragons.
The whites emerged from the forests beyond the wall like a tide of rotting flesh and frozen death. 200,000 corpses, moving with unnatural coordination, climbing over each other to reach the living. Their eyes glowed with that terrible blue light, and the sound they made, not quite a moan, not quite a scream, chilled the blood of even the bravest warriors. And behind them, riding dead horses wreathed in frost, came the White Walkers, a dozen of them, tall and terrible, their army seeming carved from frozen starlight. At their head rode the Night King himself, crowned with ice, his presence radiating cold so intense that the frost formed on the wall itself where he passed. Jon stood on the wall beside Robb, watching the horde appear, and felt genuine fear for the first time since Ned's execution.
Gods, there's so many of them. Then we'll kill them all, together.
The Night's Watch archers loosed their first volley, dragonglass-tipped arrows that found dead flesh and dropped whites by the dozen. But for every one that fell, 10 more took its place. The battle began in earnest. Trenches filled with wildfire ignited, creating walls of green flame that consumed the first wave of whites. The dead walked through the fire, burning but not stopping, their skeletal forms collapsing only when the flames had reduced them to ash. The wildlings, led by Tormund Giantsbane, fought with savage fury at the wall's base.
Come on, you frozen bastards! Is that all of you've got?
His massive axe cleaved through white after white, each swing accompanied by a roar of defiance. Beside him, wildling warriors fought with clubs, spears, and axes, their intimate knowledge of cold and death serving them well. The Unsullied held the center line with mechanical precision, their formation unbreakable even against overwhelming numbers. Grey Worm's voice rang out across the field.
Hold! Shields locked! Spears forward!
They moved as one organism, a wall of shields and spears that the whites broke against the waves on the cliff. Each thrust was perfectly timed, each movement coordinated. The dead piled up before them, but the Unsullied never wavered. On the left flank, the Northmen fought for their homeland. The Great Jon wielded his massive sword with brutal efficiency, each swing taking heads and limbs.
For Winterfell! For the North! For the Stark!
Dothraki screamed their war cries and charged on horseback, their aurochs flashing in the firelight as they cut through the dead. And incredibly, even the Lannisters, fighting beside their old enemies, held their positions. Tywin Lannister himself stood in the battle line, his sword bloody, his legendary composure tested but not broken. A white lunged at him, and he dispatched it with a clinical efficiency before moving to the next. Then the dragons entered the fray. Daenerys soared overhead on Drogon, the black dragon's shadow covering the battlefield like a storm cloud.
Dracarys!
Fire erupted from the dragon's mouth, a torrent of destruction that turned entire companies of whites into ash in seconds. The smell of burning flesh filled the air as hundreds of the dead were incinerated. Jon rode Rhaegal, sweeping the left flank with precisely directed dragonfire. The green and bronze dragons responded to his commands as if they'd been bonded for years, his flames creating a barrier that the whites could not cross. And Stannis Baratheon, looking grimly determined on Viserion's back, cleared the right flank with systematic efficiency.
Burn them! Burn them all!
The cream and gold dragon obeyed, fire turning the right side of the battlefield into an inferno. Tywin Lannister, fighting on the ground, looked up to see Stannis Baratheon, the man who'd besieged King's Landing, riding a dragon and unleashing destruction on the enemies of mankind. He breathed a single word.
Impossible.
Oberyn Martell fought nearby, his spear a blur as he danced through the whites with deadly grace. He laughed even in the midst of carnage.
Nothing's impossible today, old lion. We're fighting the dead alongside dragons. Embrace it.
He spun his dragonglass-tipped spear, puncturing through a white skull, then immediately thrust it through another's chest. The battle raged for hours. The dead kept coming, relentless and unstoppable, their numbers seemingly endless. Warriors fell, brave men and women who'd never imagined dying fighting corpses. But for every one who fell, 10 more stepped forward to take their place. The living held, barely. Then Jon saw him, the Night King, standing at the back of his army on his dead horse, watching the battlefield with those terrible blue eyes. He made no move to join the fight, simply observed with the patience of someone that had existed for millennia. Jon pulled Rhaegal around, his voice cutting through the battle noise.
There's the leader, the Night King.
Robb, fighting on the ground, looked up and saw the ancient evil that commanded the dead.
Can the dragons kill him? Only one way to find out. Daenerys, Stannis, with me.
3 dragon riders converged on the Night King, who watched them approach with something that might have been amusement. He raised one hand, and the temperature dropped so suddenly that men's breath froze in their lungs. Ice spears materialized in the air around him, massive javelins of frozen death, each one large enough to kill a dragon. He hurled the first at Viserion with inhuman strength. Stannis saw it coming and pulled hard on the reins.
Dive!
Viserion barrel-rolled, the ice spear missing by inches and shattering against the wall behind them, leaving a crater in the ancient ice.
We need to ground him. Force him to fight.
They dove together, perfectly coordinated despite having trained only for days. Dragons unleashed fire from 3 directions, creating a triangle of destruction focused on the Night King. But the ancient creature was fast, impossibly fast. He moved with fluid grace, his dead horse responding to unspoken commands, dodging dragonfire that should have been unavoidable. Drogon's flames forced him to veer left. Rhaegal's fire cut off the escape. Viserion's breath blocked his retreat. For a moment, the Night King was trapped. In that instant, Jon made his decision. He unstrapped himself from the saddle and leaped.
Jon, no!
But he was already falling. Longclaw, his Valyrian steel sword held ready. He hit the ground hard, rolling to absorb the impact, and came up running toward the Night King. The ancient evil dismounted from his dead horse with liquid grace, drawing a blade that seemed carved from a glacier itself, longer than any sword, glowing with inner cold, radiating death.
For the Watch! For the living!
Their blades met with a sound like thunder, steel against ice, mortal against immortal. The impact sent shockwaves rippling across the frozen ground, cracking the ice beneath their feet. The Night King was stronger, far stronger than any human should be. Each blow felt like being hit with a boulder, but Jon was faster, his youth and desperation giving him speed that centuries couldn't match. They traded strikes, a deadly dance of death. The Night King's blade came within inches of Jon's throat, his head, his heart, each time missing by a hair's breadth. Jon countered, Longclaw seeking gaps in the ancient armor, finding nothing but air and ice. Around them, the battle continued, but it felt distant, muffled. This was what mattered. This single combat would determine everything. The Night King swept his blade low, trying to take Jon's legs. Jon jumped, bringing Longclaw down in an overhead strike that the Night King barely blocked. The force of it drove both combatants back several paces. Jon's arms were shaking from the impacts. Blood seeped from a dozen minor wounds. His breath came in ragged gasps, but he couldn't stop, wouldn't stop. He thought of Ned teaching him to fight in the Winterfell training yard. He thought of Robb standing beside him through everything. He thought of all of the people depending on him, the living who would die if he failed. The Night King thrust forward, his icy blades seeking Jon's heart. At the last second, Jon remembered something Ned had taught him years ago.
Every strike is an opportunity, Jon. Even a defensive one. Watch for the opening. It's always there.
Jon didn't block. Instead, he moved inside the thrust, taking a shallow cut across his ribs in exchange for proximity. He grabbed the Night King's sword arm with his free hand and drove Longclaw up with all his remaining strength. The Valyrian steel blade punched through the ancient armor, through whatever passed for flesh beneath, straight for the Night King's chest. For the first time, the Night King's face showed emotion. Surprise, perhaps, or disbelief that a mortal could actually harm him. His mouth opened in a silent scream. Then he shattered. Like glass, like ice, like every nightmare dissolving at dawn. The Night King exploded into a million fragments, each piece dissolving into mist before it could touch the ground. His ice blade shattered with him, becoming nothing but cold air and bad dreams. Across the entire battlefield, every white, every dead soldier, every frozen corpse fell instantly. 200,000 moving corpses became 200,000 unmoving bodies in a heartbeat. The silence that followed was deafening. For a moment, nobody moved, nobody spoke. They simply stood in shock, unable to believe it was over. Then someone cheered, a single voice lost in the quiet. Another joined, then another. Within seconds, the entire army was roaring, screaming their victory to the uncaring sky. Jon stood alone where the Night King had fallen, his sword still raised, blood from a dozen wounds staining his black cloak red. His legs gave out, and he fell to his knees, exhaustion overwhelming him. Then Robb was there, having sprinted across the battlefield. He pulled his brother into a fierce embrace.
You did it! You madman! You actually did it! You killed him!
We did. All of us. Everyone who fought. Everyone who stood when they could have run. That's who killed him.
Daenerys landed Drogon nearby and rushed to them.
That was the stupidest, bravest thing I've ever seen. Don't you ever do that again.
We can't promise that.
Stannis dismounted from Viserion with considerable less grace, but his face showed something that might have been respect.
Well fought, Lord Commander. Well fought indeed.
Around them, the armies continued to cheer. They'd won, against impossible odds, facing an enemy that couldn't die. They'd won. Humanity had survived the long night, but it cost them dearly. Thousands lay dead on the field. Northmen, wildlings, knights, unsullied, good men and women who'd given their lives so others could live. Jon looked down at the carnage and felt tears mixing with the blood on his face.
So many dead. So many more alive because of what you did. Remember that, brother. Remember them.
As dawn broke over the wall, the living began the grim task of counting their dead and tending to their wounded. The long night was over, and the world would never be the same. The negotiations took place in Winterfell's Great Hall a week after the battle. Every major house had sent representatives. The realm needed a new order, and everyone knew it.
Your Graces, House Lannister acknowledges your right to rule. We fought together against extinction. We'll survive together to rebuild.
The Reach agrees. You have the dragons, the armies, and the loyalty of the people. We're tired of fighting pointless wars. Let's build something better.
Dorn Martell nodded from his wheelchair.
Then let's be clear about the terms. House Lannister keeps Castle Rock, but Cersei faces justice. She'll be sent to the Silent Sisters for the rest of her days.
Agreed.
Jaime Lannister will marry Sansa Stark. The union of our houses will ensure lasting peace.
Sansa, who'd been sitting with Arya, stood up.
I accept. If it means peace, I'll do it.
I'll be a good husband, Lady Sansa. I swear it. Stannis Baratheon will serve as Hand of the King. Sir Davos will be Master of Ships, and Lord Tywin, despite everything, you'll be Master of Coin. No one knows gold like a Lannister.
Tyrion raised his cup in salute.
I'll drink to that.
Jon Snow, you'll be legitimized as Jon Stark, but you'll remain Lord Commander if that's what you wish.
It is. My place is at the wall, protecting the realm. Then Bran will be Lord of Winterfell. He's learned much, and he'll rule well.
The arrangements continued late into the night. Every major house pledged their loyalty, their forces, and their cooperation in the new regime. The throne room had seen so much bloodshed and betrayal now, witnessed something rare. Genuine cooperation, born of shared survival.
The Seven Kingdoms will be rebuilt, not through fear or conquest, but through unity. We've seen what happens when we fight each other instead of real threats. That ends now.
Any house that serves loyally will keep their lands and titles. Any that rebel will face dragonfire. It's that simple.
The assembled lords nodded their agreement. They'd all seen what dragons can do. More importantly, they'd seen what the alternative to cooperation looked like. Frozen corpses shambling south to kill everything in their path. As the formal negotiations concluded and the lords began filing out, a commotion arose at the gates. A young man had arrived claiming an audience with the Dragon Queen. When he was brought before the throne, the assembled court fell silent. He had dark hair touched with auburn, gray-blue eyes, and features that could have been Targaryen, or could have been Blackfyre, or could have been neither. His appearance was deliberately ambiguous. He bowed deeply before Robb and Daenerys.
Your Graces, my name is Aegon. I was told I'm the son of Rhaegar Targaryen and Elia Martell. Whether that's true or not, I honestly don't know anymore. I was raised by Jon Connington to believe I was the true heir, but after everything that's happened, I'm not sure it matters.
Why come here? Why not press your claim?
Because I saw what happened at the wall. I saw the realm nearly end while we all fought over a chair made of swords. I don't want that anymore. I don't want to be another claimant. Another war. Another reason for people to die. If I'm truly your nephew, then I'm honored to serve my family. I'm just a man who wants a place to belong. Either way, I'm not here to take your throne. I'm here to ask you for a home.
Robb and Daenerys exchanged glances. After a moment, Daenerys spoke.
Dragonstone needs a lord. The ancestral seat of House Targaryen has stood empty since Stannis left for the north. Whether you're truly Rhaegar's son or not, you'll have a place there. Serve the crown faithfully, and you'll always have a home.
Thank you, Your Grace. I swear I'll serve faithfully.
Stannis Baratheon stood before the throne one final time before departing.
Storm's End was my brother's seat. It should have been mine by rights. Thank you for returning it.
You earned it, Lord Stannis. You came north when it mattered most. You fought beside us. You helped us save the realm.
I came because Melisandre said it was my destiny. I thought she meant the throne, but perhaps she meant this, serving the realm rather than ruling it.
A Hand of the King is one of the most powerful positions in Westeros. You'll have influence over every decision we make.
Good. Then I'll use it to ensure we maintain discipline and order. I'll serve at hand. I'll serve faithfully. But don't expect me to smile about it or pretend this is what I wanted. I wanted the throne.
I didn't get it. That's the end of it.
He gave a curt nod, the closest thing to a bow Stannis Baratheon would offer, and turned sharply on his heel, Davos following at his side.
That went well, Your Grace. It went as it had to, said Davos. Nothing more, nothing less.
2 years later, King Robb and Queen Daenerys ruled from the Red Keep. The reconstruction of the Seven Kingdoms had been an arduous task, but successful. The war scars were healing, slowly but surely. Their twin children, a boy named Eddard and a girl named Lyanna, brought new life and hope to the castle that had so much death. Little Eddard had his father's auburn hair and his mother's violet eyes, while Lyanna had silver gold hair and her father's gray-blue eyes. The realm prospered under their joint rule. The Lannisters and Starks, once bitter enemies, worked together to rebuild what war had destroyed. Jaime and Sansa's marriage had produced an heir, a boy named Ned, creating a living bridge between the two great houses. At Casterly Rock, Tywin Lannister managed the realm's finances with his usual efficiency. Though age had mellowed him slightly, he'd seen too much death, fought too many wars. Now, his final years, he focused on ensuring House Lannister's legacy was one of service rather than treachery. In Winterfell, Bran Stark ruled as Lord of the North, with wisdom beyond his years. Arya Stark refused all marriage proposals and instead traveled the world, exploring lands beyond Westeros, always returning home with stories of distant places and strange peoples. Sandor Clegane accompanied her on many of these journeys, the unlikely pair becoming legendary in tavern tales. The wildlings settled peacefully in the Gift, their fierce warriors becoming traders and farmers. Tormund Giantsbane served as their representative to the crown, and his friendship with Jon Snow became the stuff of legends, two men from different worlds who found brotherhood in shared struggle. At Dragonstone, Aegon, whether Targaryen or Blackfyre, none would ever truly know, ruled justly and well. He married a minor noblewoman from the Stormlands and raised a family in peace, content to be lord rather than king. The question of his true parentage became a historical curiosity rather than a source of conflict. Tyrion Lannister served as Master of Whispers, his intelligence network ensuring no threat could catch the realm unprepared again. He'd found purpose in protecting rather than serving, and though he still drank too much, he did so in the company of friends rather than in bitter solitude. And on the wall, Jon Snow, Jon Stark now, legitimized but still devoted in the Night's Watch, watched the northern horizon with Ghost at his side. The long night was over, the White Walkers destroyed, but the wall remained, because threats would always come from somewhere, and the realm needed protectors. He often thought about what Master Aemon had once told him. Love is death and duty, but Jon had found a way to love his family while still serving the realm. He visited Winterfell every year, rode dragons with Daenerys when she flew north, and trained with Robb to keep both their skills sharp. The realm had been saved not by prophecy or destiny, but by people choosing to work together instead of tearing each other apart. The wolf and the dragon had shown them it was possible. Winter would come again. It always did. But when it came, the Seven Kingdoms would stand united, ready to face whatever darkness emerged from the frozen north. That's our theory. Westeros is a land full of exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you'd like to join us on this journey across the Seven Kingdoms and beyond, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.